Hey guys, John here from Mob Rules, here to talk about Index Xenos 1, the combined army list book coming out with new 40k here. That's going to cover Dark Eldar, Necrons, Harlequins, Craft World Eldar, and of course the Aeldari army lists. These are all now replaced with Index Xenos 1, so let's go ahead and see what that is like. Right, so just like the Imperial Book 1, these indexes here kind of as a stopgap until each army gets its own codice for the new 7th or 8th edition, I should say, sorry, of 40k. A lot of you, or pretty much everyone, has seen the leaks that have come out online, kind of showing off all of the new units and the new profiles and rules and keywords and how that works. I'm just going to go through a few of the specific units that seem to be kind of the big winners coming out of his. Starting, of course, with the beloved Eldar, or who are now called the Craft World Aeldari. Aeldari and Necrons is kind of our first sign here of the changes that are coming with new 40k. Ghost Helm, which all Farseers, including Aeldari, have, now have a special rule where on a 5+, they ignore mortal wounds. Mortal wounds, usually can't be saved again, so any kind of protection is pretty good. And compared to last edition, where the Ghost Helm was kind of a pretty perennially used to avoid wounds from perils of the warp, this is certainly really toned down, while still being kind of in the spirit of the model. Also, Runes of the Farseer, you can attempt to reroll any number of dice used for Aeldari and Necrons attempt to manifest or deny a psychic power, whether that's once a psychic phase. So again, showing the power of the Eldar Psychers while still keeping it in line with new 40k is kind of balancing. So while he's super powerful, he's maybe not as powerful as before. Next up, the Autarch, the part parcel standard Eldar general. I know I used him a lot in 7th edition, mainly as a reserve buff. Now with reserves kind of going away, and the fact that you don't have to roll, they just kind of come in when you want after the end of the movement phase, that part kind of is no more. What this really does show is our first sign of the Banshee Mask, which now means you can fight first, or units with a Banshee Mask fight first in the fight subphase, which is huge in new 40k. It means if you are charged by an enemy unit, most of the time you're still going to be hitting first. And when you're Eldar and you're not super tough, you want to get as much attacks out there as possible. Force Shield is the same as before, where he still gets his 4+ invulnerable save. And the Manda Blasters do start dishing out some mortal wounds as well. So those are all great options for the Autarch. And you see we have the regular Autarch, our Autarch with swooping wings, and the warp jump generator. Now, the humble Guardian Defender is really back in a big way in new 40k, with jet bikes or wind riders being moved to the fast attack slot, which we'll go over later. Guardians are going to see kind of a bit of a comeback, I feel. They still have their 5+ save. The Shuriken Catapult, pretty much translated exactly across. It's still, assault 2 weapon. It still has a 12-inch range. And it still causes an AP, well, before it was a AP 2 on a roll of a 6 to wound, but now it is a -3 on the armor penetration. So Marines are still getting a save, Terminator is still getting a save, which seems fair, and again, it just balances out a little bit. I know I used to have some fun dropping kind of just 60 Guardians down and trying to blade storm the crap out of stuff. And now, while it's still deadly, it still doesn't just auto-wipe some units. Weapons platforms, much the same. They can fire it when they're near it, and the guns, again, everything is pretty similar to its old 40k standpoint. Wind Riders, the bane of many people's existence. It's kind of the staple of my both Eldar and Aeldari armies. Their movement now is 16 inches, which is huge. A lot of super fast units in this book here. Scatter lasers, their profile is pretty much exactly the same, heavy 4, strength 6. The issue now is that they are a heavy weapon, so you're automatically going to be at -1 to hit them, to hit things with it. So you're now hitting on 4s with a scatter laser. You still have 4 shots, so it's still not terrible, but it certainly balances out kind of the bucket of dice you're firing there. And that is our fast attack for our Wind Riders. And again, slot change, so that is now a fast attack option. So no more troops, no more Wind Rider troops. So you're going to see some variety in Eldar armies now, I feel. Which include Rangers. Rangers are, I feel, the biggest takeaway or the biggest gain in this mini codex or this edition of the game. With characters not being in units, but having you're being forced to kind of shoot the closest target to you. Rangers have a long rifle, which is a heavy one weapon, so you don't want to move with it. But you target a character even if it is not the closest enemy unit. So you can start laying out wounds from a far distance right away to try and get out some of those buffers, your Gullimans and your other things like that are really kind of buffing the units around it. They also have an ability called Appear Unbidden, where you can put them anywhere on the battlefield, more than 9 inches away from enemy models after deployment or during deployment. Or after both sides have deployed, so kind of like infiltrator before. But this way you're kind of guaranteed the high ground. You can get a good shot, kind of good angles on the thing. So I think taking a couple units of those to fill out your troops choices is going to be super, super good. Take out those buffers and let your kind of elite choices take care of the rest. Wraith Guard, my other kind of big unit. Death Scythes are now strength 10. The AP is -4 in it, so it is instigating Marines. It is making Terminators take a 6-up save. It's assault D3, so it's still going to do a lot of damage, but it's only an 8-inch range, and that 8-inch range is huge because it means all of the weird crap you can do, like if you want to do things to kind of get it closer or have them set up super close, you can never set up closer than 9 inches to an enemy. So having a unit that has a gun that's only 8 inches means they're not just going to drop down, fire all their crap, and you're going to have no reply to them there. Toughness 5 now, but they do have 3 wounds and a really good leadership of 9, and that's really going to help out with morale and morale checks there. They are implacable, so if they are charged, they can fall back and still shoot, which is, again, a big deal. So they're never going to be kind of tied up in combat. And if someone does charge them and they survive, you can fall back and hit them full blast with your D-Scythe. So still a nasty unit, but what we're going to see is it's a very balanced unit. Speaking of a very good unit, Wave Serpents, the troop transport of choice. It is a 13 wound model now, which means generally it isn't going to be one-shot killed. The Serpent Shield also had another redo, every edition we get kind of a different version of the Serpent Shield. Now, any damage suffered by the Wave Serpent from a ranged weapon is reduced by 1 to a minimum of 1. So if we get shot by, say, a last cannon, and it does 3 wounds, it only actually does 2, because the Serpent Shield takes it down to 1. You can also use it obviously as a gun. You can discharge its Serpent Shield. If so, roll its D6. On a 2+, the nearest visible enemy unit within 24 inches suffers D3 mortal wounds. You can't use your Serpent Shield after that. That seems like a super neat thing to do when it's down to kind of 1 or 2 wounds. It's not going to survive the next turn. You can kind of just try and take some of the nearest enemy unit out. So positioning is going to be super important for that. But Wave Serpent is a huge boost. It's definitely something that's going to be carting around all of my Guardians just by how amazing it is now. Warp Spiders, the big competitive Eldar unit that we've seen pretty much in some form of Eldar list for the last, 2 or 3 years since like the 30 Warp Spider spam won all the big events down in the lower 48. The Warp Jump Generator is kind of changed a little bit. Now, the move characteristic, they do move 46 inches. So a maximum of 24, minimum of 4. So still super good. They also gain the fly rule until the end of the phase. So for that entire movement phase, they are counted as flying, which is super helpful for them because it means they can shunt out of combat and still shoot. Flicker Jump, the bane of people's existence. Remember in 7th edition, you shot at a unit of Warp Spiders, they would flicker jump away, and that unit's entire shooting was wasted because they could no longer see them, and they couldn't shoot at anything else. And it was a super powerful ability. Now, when a unit with this ability is targeted, you declare that they're flicker jumping, and all that happens is your opponent subtracts 1 from hit rolls for attacks. You balance that by rolling 2 dice. If you roll double 1, Snake Eyes, 1 model from your Warp Spiders is dead. It's a lot fairer, combined with some other things, like if you have them in cover and they flicker jump and it's a heavy weapon firing at them, then that's -3 to hit. So it's still quite powerful, but not quite as bad as it was before, where you could kind of flicker jump all over the table and jump all over the table and just have that huge mobility. I mean, they're still super mobile, but not quite as mobile as before. Dark Reapers. A little bit of a nerf to their stuff there. Their AP is -2 now. So as opposed to their guns being AP3 for the Reaper launcher in 7th edition, now Marines are getting a save, or your Marine equivalent is getting a save. They still get, they do huge amounts of damage when they hit. They're super high strength, and much like other things, I don't think anything is like hugely reduced by it. The Marine's still getting a 5-up save. I mean, it's just a more balanced unit now. Inescapable accuracy is their special rule. They always hit on a 3+ when firing a ranged weapon, regardless of modifiers. So that generally 50% of the time or 60% of the time, they're going to be hitting what they're shooting at. It does specify that in Overwatch, they're still only hitting on 6s though. But again, this is a really high quality unit where they're more times than not, they're going to hit what they're aiming at. And they're going to be doing a heck of a lot of damage with it too. And then on to Big Daddy, the Wraith Knight. The unit that gained about as much hate as Warp Spiders and as Scatter Bikes was the Wraith Knight. Coming in last edition at about 300 points. It was about 200 to 300 points undercosted. They were in every Eldar army, pretty much, unless you were specifically, no, I'm not going to take a Wraith Knight to show that I don't need to. There was no reason not to take one. They were just that damn good. Now, a fully kitted up Wraith Knight, like you see on this page here, is going to be around 600 points, which is a huge increase for Eldar players. But it is a much more fair points increase here. You still get the same options. It's toughness 8. It now has 24 wounds. So that 600 points is going to a heck of a lot, and it's going to take a hell of a lot to take it down. It also has the Unstoppable Revenant rule, which means when it falls back, it can move over enemy infantry models, and it can move and fire heavy weapons without suffering its penalty. Finally, Wraith Knight only gains a bonus to save and cover if at least half the models obscured from fire. No more tow and cover. Although that kind of phased out towards the end of 7th edition, it is for sure gone now. On to the Drukhari, or the Dark Eldar as we know them. The first thing we see here is a Shadow Field. Invulnerable saves are huge in new 40k, where the AP is not mattering. And you're still, you know, getting a really good save. And the Shadow Field gives Archaon a 2-up save, 2-up invulnerable save. You can't reroll it for any reason, including command points. And the first time you fail it, it doesn't work anymore, but still having that 2-up save means he can tank a little bit for some of the softer units. And Dark Eldar players are going to know that there are, you know, a lot of soft units. Armor save wise, lots of 5s up. Like the rest of the HQs on this page, or elites on this page, are 5-up saves. Some 7-up saves. Just it's nice to have something that can kind of be that closest model to tank some wounds for them. Character wise, Lilith Hesperex, she is back, and she's pretty damn good. She has a 3+ invulnerable save for her dodge, and she also has the no escape rule. We all heard that in combat in new 40k, you can just leave combat and walk away, and that, I mean, there's some downsides to doing that, but it's a pretty powerful ability. Lilith has a rule called no escape, where any enemy, if you try and fall back, you roll off, and if the Lilith's controlling player rolls higher than you, you can't leave. So being able to lock in combat, I think, is going to be huge in this edition, especially if you're locked in with Lilith and a bunch of close combat witches. You should not be surviving for long. Move on here to the other big winner, the Raider. The Raider and the Venom. Dark Eldar players. In old editions, the tactic was, you know, the hit and run, or the Venom spam, or something like that. Trying to really glass cannon tactics, because, you know, your Raider was armor value 10, so bolters were taking it out, and they were exploding it because, you know, you got pluses on the table. Now a Raider is, well, it's only toughness 5. It does have 10 wounds. It's open topped, which means models embarked on that ship can shoot out of it, which is huge because in other tanks, they don't count as being on the table. You can transport 10 Incubi or Drukhari infantry models in there. And it just, yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. So you're going to reliably be getting things up on Raiders very quickly to the front lines, especially when with a full complement of wounds, it's moving 14 inches. So you're going to be in deployment zones, and you're going to be kind of harassing super quickly and quite quite easily. And Venoms as well there, they have a 4-up save, which, you know, is still getting used to that in vehicles. Splinter Cannon is still a huge thing, a rapid fire 3, so within 18 inches, it's firing out 6 shots that are wounding on 4s. And it has a 5-up invulnerable save. Both the Raider and the Venom have invulnerable saves, just going off of their Knight shields. It's open top, so again, everything in there can fire. And we're going to see more of that with the Inari later, about how that's going to be a super amazing combo. Reaver jet bikes. I stopped taking these a while after I realized they had a 6-up save. And you know, it's very hard to pay for those fragile units. They now have a 4-up save and a move of 16 inches. So they're as fast as their kind of craft world counterpart. They have combat drugs, and the cluster caltrop kind of took a little bit of a nerf here. You roll a d6 for each enemy unit within 1 inch of a model with cluster caltrops. It falls back, and on a 4+, it suffers a mortal wound. So, I mean, you're only at the most doing 1 mortal wound to an enemy unit, as opposed to kind of the Hammer of Wrath nastiness you got from before. But it's still kind of something to kind of give thought about falling back from a unit of Reavers. I mean, they're hitting on 3s in combat. Their strength isn't anything amazing, it's just regular Eldar strength. But still kind of, you should, you know, thinking about running away if you only have 1 guy, you're going to make those bad dice rolls. It could happen. Harlequins are Harlequins. It goes without saying. The Shadow Seer is really a good example of a good Harlequin character. The flip belts, which most Harlequins have, means they can move across models and terrains if they weren't there. They have a 4-up invulnerable save, and your opponent must subtract 1 from the wound rolls for any attacks made against the model, and for any attacks made against friendly infantry within 6 inches. So being that they're toughness 3, it really adds to kind of a little bit of durability to this kind of army. Whereas before, Harlequins were kind of like another kind of Dark Eldari glass cannon, where they were, when you got them in combat, they were lethal, but man, they were very, very susceptible to fire and all of these buffs. And I mean, Shadow Seer, I think, is a great example of new 40k, where it's all about the synergy and the kind of the auras and the buffs. And Shield from Harm is a great example of that there. Void Weavers and Star Weavers. The little, again, AV-10 ships, the kind of your Harlequin Venoms, they are now amazing. A toughness 5 again for both of them. They both have 6 wounds each. But they do have a 4-up invulnerable save. And for a transport, that is amazing. It's open top, so it has the same rules as the Raider, where everything inside can shoot at it. But man, just the 4-up invulnerable, it just seems super, super powerful. And we'll be able to get the Aeldari models across the field super, super quick. Now we come to Inari, my recent army that I've been playing with. The army list here is literally 3 models. They say here, Army of the Reborn, you can take any Aeldari unit as long as it does not have the keyword of Homunculi Coven. So you can take Homunculi Coven units, which is fine, you know, that fits the fluff. They're not happy that the Strength from Death stuff is coming. But everything else is fair game. That's, you know, Eldar, Dark Eldar, and Harlequins. And Strength from Death has been fixed. It's still a powerful ability, but is no longer super broken in the way that I can use it to charge my Wraith Knight across the table, or double tap some Wraith Cannons, or anything like that. Strength from Death is essentially the same as it was before, except now it only affects infantry and bikers, and Inari infantry and bikers. So only jet bikes and foot guys are getting it. So no Wraith Knights, no Wraith Lords, no Avatar. As before. I mean, the Avatar of an It still gets it, but your regular Avatar doesn't get it. So I think that really balances out what you can do with it. It's still 1 unit when 1 unit can soul burst when it's within 7 inches of a unit that dies, but I feel this is kind of really, really good. They also fixed through In Its Will the idea of who can write in who. There was a big kind of kerfuffle when it first came out in 7th edition, where like, yeah, I can put Wraith and Raiders again. And Games Workshop came out and specifically said, no, you can't put Wraith and Raiders again. And now, through the Inari army list, as long as it has the Aeldari transport keyword or keywords, then you can go in it. So having Wraiths in Raiders is a viable tactic again. And then you can really negate that 8-inch range with your D cannons or D sights. The Incarn, or the triumvirate of the Enid, they're a little bit similar now. They all get the wounds back when Eldar die around them, but all of them are on a 4+ now, so it balances out a little bit. The Grink's Familiar adds 1 to all of the psychic tests that Ivrin does, and for Champion of Enid, Warden of Enid, or Warden of Ivrin, even 3rd time's the charm. The Visearch suffers a mortal wound if he is near Ivrin and she takes a wound instead. So I mean, we see that kind of lookout sir mechanic and that bodyguard protector thing from the fluff coming through. Robots, Necrons. Reanimation protocols are updated for new 40k. It's knockdown model time again. At the end of at the beginning of your turn, you roll a d6 for each model that's down, and on a 5-up, it gets back up, back in coherency. So there's ways to manipulate that and help that, but Necrons kind of maintain their severe resiliency to kind of most any damage. Death Marks. I'm super excited about these units for Necron players. Death Marks. They have the sniper rule, essentially. So you can target a character, even if it's not the closest enemy model. But the Synaptic Disintegrator is a rapid fire weapon and not a heavy weapon like 90% of other sniper rifles. So you can move, you can fire. Coming out of Deep Strike, they're going to be able to fire. It's a really good and powerful sniper rifle. The fact you can move and fire with it without that -1 penalty means most of the time they're going to be hitting on 3s. Ghost Arcs. The other kind of winner and loser, I guess. I mean, there's good things about it, there's bad things about it. You can't fire out of it anymore. It is not an open top one. The transport capacity is only 10. So looking at the Necron squads, like a warrior squad, you can't really fit a overlord or anything in there without kind of purposely undersizing your unit. But it does show us kind of the quantum shielding rule. So each time this model suffers damage from an unsaved wound, you roll a dice. If the result is less than the damage inflicted by the attack, the damage is ignored. So if you're hit by a las cannon, and the las cannon maxes out and it does 6 wounds to your Ghost Arc, if you roll a 5 or less, you ignore it. And so it's super powerful to kind of single big hits. It's still going to be kind of hard to ignore. Like lower hits or kind of bolt shots or kind of like little bits of damage, but situationally it should be pretty good. Wraiths are still nasty. Their transdimensional beamers -3, their claws are -1 on the AP. They're still fast, they move 12 inches. They have a 3-up invulnerable save, they can ignore terrain still. But what's super important is it looks like there's no way to give them reanimation protocol yet, which was kind of what most people had to complain about. Well, I know I had to complain about was they were just so hard and tanky to take down. There are 3 wounds, and like I said, 3-up invulnerable saves, still very nasty, but not quite as nasty as before. And then the Monolith, very rarely seen, but 20 wounds, toughness 8, moving a very slow 6 inches a turn. But it has a special rule called Portal of Exile, which I think is amazing. When an enemy unit charges this model, its Portal of Exile may activate. You roll a dice and compare it to the value required on the damage table above. So it kind of, the more wounds it has, the easier it is to get off. If it's successful, the charging unit suffers D6 mortal wounds, which makes it really nasty and kind of makes you really want to make sure that you are taking down some wounds before you get close to it there. It's situational, it's going to be fun, but it will see kind of a place on the table. And that's kind of what we see throughout this new 40k, is that everything really has a place, whereas there's no super limited builds anymore. There's going to be a lot of variety, and it's going to be interesting to see how kind of the Aeldari and the Necron meta settles down. I've seen a Necron list with monoliths and warriors and all kinds of stuff there. So we're going to see how it turns out. And that's going to be it for Index Xenos 1. I'm going to be back later on this week with Imperial 2. And then Ted and Phil will be back later on. For Mob Rules, I've been John. Have a great day.